I've been able to create vendors, to add items and services that I sell, to actually create purchase orders and receive inventory based on those orders, and in the background, QuickBooks has made all of the adjustments for the items that I've received. Well, we all wish our books were perfect, but the fact is, if you handle inventory, at some point there will be differences between what the books say you should have and what you actually do have. It's called shrinkage, and unfortunately we usually have fewer than we should, though we'd much rather have more than we should. But that's not the way it works. Technically, though, you could add items into inventory when you adjust them. Usually, however, it's going to be a subtraction. Regardless of which one it is, though, we have to adjust the inventory without creating false records. In other words, we can't say that we sold something for 0 because that's actually not true. We just lost it, or it was bad, or it's spoiled, or something like that. So when we take inventory or have known damage to items, we need to make adjustments, and that's what we're going to do now. The first thing you probably want to do on a fairly regular basis is do some kind of physical inventory, and QuickBooks will help you do that with a physical inventory worksheet. If we go to the Vendors menu, we can see all the kinds of different information that we've been working with thus far, like the Vendor Center and entering bills. We also can come down and we can do inventory activities, add new items, adjust quantity, or the very last option, look at the physical inventory worksheet. This actually is a report, and it's not very exciting for us because we only have the one inventory item. The other things we had were services and non-inventory items. It's currently telling us, though, that we should have 15 on hand, according to the books, and then there's a blank line where when we print this out, we can actually take our physical count. A very simple form, but it beats the heck out of trying to write things down on pieces of paper or the other crazy things I've been seeing people do trying to take inventory. Use the tools that you have, and one of those is this particular worksheet. I'm now going to close out of the report, and we're going to get to work actually making adjustments. We've already done our physical inventory, and we realize that we are a couple of items off from where we should be. Again, we'll go back to the Vendor menu and the Inventory Activities. Notice that the option actually says Adjust Quantity or Value on Hand. Let's give this a click and take a look at it. It has the date the adjustment took place. Usually everything in accounting wants to know what date it happened on. You can't just say, at some time I did this. It also will keep a reference number. Starts off with the number 1 and will sequentially number them for any that you have. You can attribute this to a certain customer or job, or you can choose an adjustment account. Now, we actually don't have an adjustment account. The adjustment account is something that we will need to create. The adjustment account is actually an expense account. You could create one for expenses and one for income if at some point you think you're going to have more inventory than you actually thought you had. But like I said, that usually isn't the case. So I'm going to create one just for expenses. Don't forget that this list opens up not at the top. So I'm going to scroll all the way up, add new. It comes open to cost of goods sold. We can click on the drop down and see all of the different options that we have, and we have to think about this one a little bit. Does this actually affect the cost of the goods we sold, or is it an expense? It's actually just an expense. We'll call the account name Inventory Adjustment. And then I'll move to the bottom right corner and do Save and Close. Alrighty, we have our adjustment account set. We're not attributing it to a customer in particular. We have a reference number. If you take a look, you'll see that our only inventory item is shown here. It gives us the item, its description, the current quantity, the new quantity, and the quantity difference. I'm going to go ahead and say that our count of quantity that we did when we went to the shelf was actually 14. So we're showing that we're actually missing one. QuickBooks will then do the calculation when I press Enter to tell us what the value of that will be. You can now see that the current quantity has been adjusted down, and it's now 14. When you press Enter, you actually are clicking on the Save and New button. Notice that that is the default, so you do need to be careful. If I wasn't finished, I would have accidentally gone to the next form. Now that's not any big deal, because whenever you're working in QuickBooks, in any one of the forms, on the upper left corner, you always have buttons to go between Previous and Next. If I wanted to go back, I would just click on Previous, and this actually shows me the -1 adjustment that I made. Once it's saved, all of the other columns go away. I'm going to click on Next because I want to show you a blank form, because we didn't look at the bottom left side. It has a check mark that says Value Adjustment. There is a difference between making a physical count adjustment from 15 to 14, for example, and adjusting the value. Maybe I have something that's out of season, so it's no longer worth the amount it was when it was, say, winter and I have snow parkas and coats. When I check this box, watch how the lines change. Current quantity, quantity difference. Now they come as current quantity, current value, new value. So there are two different types of adjustments you can make: the physical count of what you have or the value of what you have. Using the same form, simply use the checkbox to make sure that you are doing the correct one. I'm all finished with this, so I'll go ahead and click Cancel. And that takes me back to my little flowchart, and I've made any adjustments that I need to get my physical inventory to match what QuickBooks is telling me.